Welcome to CERTI. CERTI was established in 1986, and we are really considered the leader in radon education, as Dallas alluded to. Our main focus is an emphasis in online, on-demand learning. CERTI consults with top subject matter experts, and we have a nationwide network, so we can certainly help pretty much in any state that you might have an issue in. We have sold well over 55,000 courses. We have more than 15,000 satisfied students. We have exceptional student retention, and we provide ongoing support regardless of the course. So how does CERTI courses work? Courses are online. They're available 24/7, 365 days a year. They work at your own pace based upon your schedule, meaning you can pause and resume at any time, saving your work. So a 6-hour course might take you 6 hours straight. It might take you 2 or 3 days, depending upon your schedule, or longer than that. It's just fine. Courses remain in your digital library forever, which is really your account. We employ multiple learning styles because no two people learn alike. We really like to have these courses be engaging. Even though they're online classroom style learning, we utilize videos, slides, B-roll, which in our world means real life experiences filming on site, and our network of nationwide subject matter experts support these courses along the way. Conducting radon surveys in schools. So we have developed a 6-hour course called Conducting Radon Surveys in Schools. This course was created specifically to provide school staff members, facility managers, things like that, and radon professionals the skills to plan, conduct, and evaluate a radon survey in a school. An elevated indoor radon level is a health concern that can be present in schools, houses, anywhere, large buildings, anywhere. School districts are really taking steps now to identify and correct radon concerns and to protect their students and their staff. As we know, parents really hold schools to a high standard for health and safety. About the Iowa-specific module, these are important facts about this. So Iowa has a requirement for this. Every 5 years, their schools must be tested, and they allow them to be tested by school staff or by a licensed professional. So this course contains an additional module, a chapter, that meets Iowa state regulatory requirements. Completing both the base course and the Iowa-specific module or chapter will yield a certificate acceptable to the state of Iowa. This, by the way, does not expire. If you are an Iowa facilities manager or a school, and that same person is still there 5 years later, that same person does not need to retake this course. They can continue using this to test their schools. CERTI also offers an additional program option. We have a certified Iowa radon specialist who acts as a mentor, and they may assist schools across the entire state with on-site or virtual support. There is a nominal additional fee for this, but some folks just find that they have questions along the way, and this is a great way to call those questions out and speak with a specialist in the state of Iowa. This is what this looks like on your screen. You would see one slide per page. So this is the kind of the beginning of the course here, the Iowa school radon requirements, and there are it's too tiny to read, but that is the House file on the requirements that Iowa has adopted. Customization by state. So if requested, CERTI can customize this course for other states should additional state information be required. And you can reach out to us. We'll have some contact info at the end, and you can reach out to us for more information or to discuss that. We're very happy to do that. We've had quite a few states inquire about that. School-conducted radon surveys. If your state allows its schools to conduct their own radon testing, this course will provide an affordable, efficient option to conduct that testing. It will allow the student to return to the coursework at any time. This is really important because if you have a live course, you might have some paperwork or document that you walk away with. It's very hard to lay your hands on that at a later point. We hear all the time from our students that it's very nice to return to that in their account and take a look at their coursework again. If you're doing this 5 years later, which is the Iowa requirement, for instance, it's very nice to be able to go back and refresh yourself with that course. CERTI provides ongoing technical support. We also provide other options, as we've talked about, for additional support. We provide the students with the skills to test all schools within their district. What are the advantages to conducting your own school radon survey? School budgets are tight. We know this. There are really huge financial savings if you're able to conduct your own radon survey versus hiring a certified professional, if you feel that you want to do that with your school. You can conduct the radon testing on your own timeline throughout the entire school district. And one thing to really be aware of is that schools must be occupied for this initial testing and for any retesting thereafter. And what is retesting? Any area that tests high within that school will need to be addressed and retested while occupied. So you need to plan that timeline within your school year so it is an occupied structure to be retested. Certified professionals will usually attempt to mitigate through HVAC means initially, adjusting airflow with valves, knife gate valves and things like this. Then they would move on to a radon system if they defined that was needed. The purpose of this course is to learn how to plan a radon survey in a school, to implement a communication plan for staff and parents, to be able to place and retrieve testing devices. Dallas will be speaking to that with the EcoQube after I'm done here, to implement a quality assurance and quality control plan, to interpret those results and to determine an appropriate follow-up action, and to develop an initial response plan should elevated levels be found. What is radon? Radon is a naturally occurring, colorless, odorless, and tasteless radioactive gas formed from the decay of uranium, thorium, or radium, all radioactive materials which break down in rock, soil, and water. Radon gas can seep into homes and buildings through cracks in the foundation, gaps around pipes or other openings that are in contact with the ground. Radon gas can accumulate, affecting your indoor air quality, and you might see this referred to as IAQ. Although radon is a natural gas that comes from the earth, it can be toxic if you're exposed to dangerous levels over a really long period of time. Radon is recognized as a human carcinogen by the World Health Organization, the Environmental Protection Agency, and the International Agency for Research on Cancer, recognized as IARC. Why should you test for radon? When you breathe in radon gas, radioactive particles from the decay of that gas can seep into the lining of your lungs, trapping radiation inside of them. Because radon is radioactive, it can alter DNA in lung cells, leading to harmful mutations. Radon is the second leading cause of lung cancer deaths in the United States, only following smoking, and it causes approximately 21,000 radon-induced lung cancer deaths each year. Many states are now requiring or suggesting radon testing in schools. And I will say that many states who do not require it have reached out to us for this course, buying them in large numbers of blocks for their schools throughout their states. How to contact CERTI. At the top is our website, really easy to remember. It's just certi.us. And our toll-free number is 800-513-8332. To register for conducting radon surveys in schools, you can do that online, any time of day or night, or you can call our office during regular working hours, which is Monday to Friday, 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. Eastern Time. The course ID that you would be searching for is in our continuing education courses, and it is the ID number C6100, indicating the 6 indicating a 6-hour course. The cost for this course is $100. CERTI always honors our veterans with a 15% discount as well, and you'd have to contact us directly to help out with this. Questions and answers. So I just want to thank everybody for joining us today to hear about this really amazing course that has taken off like wildfire. We are happy to answer any questions you might have at this time.
Okay, so I'm looking at the Q&A tab here. Does anybody have any questions? If you want to raise your hand, I can respond. Okay, so I've got Randy McKenzie. Let me find you here where I can see if I can get your mic turned on. Well, I've got a long list.
They could also drop it in the chat box, right, Dallas?
Yeah, you can. Randy, if you put it in the chat box, it might be faster than me finding you here. Let's see. Well, there's probably let's see, I can do a search, McKenzie.
Here we go. Let me see. Okay,
Let's
so
see.
Randy says, what is the cost of the equipment for testing, Randy? The testing equipment, or because the course itself is $100, and Dallas will speak to the cost of the equipment. There are a couple different ways to work that with the Ecosense. Yes, he says. So Dallas, he wants to know about the cost. You want to address that?
Yeah, we'll get to that here as we get into this next section. So
okay,
hang on, and we'll certainly talk about that.
Okay. Next question's from Autumn Rogers. She says, do you know if this class counts for CE credits for Illinois? That's a good question, Autumn. It does. It counts for continuing education credits through NRPP or NRSB. CERTI is dual certified with both, and Illinois accepts the NRPP and the NRSB continuing education courses from us. So you would get 6 continuing ed credits for that.
Okay. Is there another question?
Autumn said, thank you. You're welcome.
All right. I think that's it for now. If you come up with something, we can put it into the chat, and if we don't get to it on the webinar, we'll answer it after the webinar. How's that? So thank you, Jan. I have personally taken CERTI courses and always find them, as she says, interactive and with a lot of different ways to view things. Is the course acceptable in New Jersey? That was yes, it is. Of course, she would have it acceptable in New Jersey because that's where Jan is sitting right now, is in New Jersey. So yeah. Okay. All right. So I'm going to share my screen now. Thank you, Jan. If you'll hang on in case somebody else has some questions a little later, then we can get to those. So let me get here to the top and slideshow. Jan, can you see my screen? Thank you. All right, so what we're going to talk about is the EcoQube Pro. And to get to the question that was asked earlier about the way schools are typically tested, they're usually tested with charcoal kits. And that's been traditional because charcoal kits are less expensive and continuous monitors have been, and continuous monitors have historically been just too expensive to deploy in large quantities throughout a large survey in a school. And for those of you who haven't tested a school yet, one of the requirements with the ANSI standards and most state protocols as well, if they vary from that, is you would test all of the ground contact rooms that are occupied. So that would include classrooms and offices and places where people spend time. So that's why it takes a lot of devices to test the school, and charcoal has always been kind of the primary choice. And depending on how many you purchase, you can get them for $8 to $10 perhaps on up to more than that, depending on where you buy them and how many you get. And then there are some people who are testing with electrets, and I really don't know the prices on those. But what we're going to talk about is a different way to do testing, and this is something that we developed thinking about schools in particular, and that is the EcoQube Pro. If you're familiar with our EcoQube, which we've had out for some time, that we sell to homeowners, and that includes even on Amazon as well as our website. It's the same hardware, but it has been changed in the firmware and the software, where it's using the onboard memory instead of the cloud memory through Wi-Fi. And you can put it on Wi-Fi, but you don't have to deploy it in this manner. And so then we ran it through the device evaluation process with the National Radon Proficiency Program. And we could have done that with a consumer device, but we just didn't target that at the time. So it has gone through the evaluation. It did that last year. And this sensor in this device is extremely good. In fact, you're not going to find a sensor that can detect radon concentrations this precisely and accurately, unless you're really willing to spend about $6,000 for a monitor. So it's a great sensor. And one of the reasons I became a part of the company is I've been admiring this sensor since it was first developed. So we wanted to put it to use for something like schools, since we're able to make it affordable in this situation. So you can get them in a pack of 4. These are rentals or leases. And I'll explain to you why that is as I go through this. You can get them in a pack of 4 if you're a home inspector and you want the analysis to be done by a certified or licensed lab or analytical provider. That would be Ecosense in this case. Or you could get them in large quantities for schools. We can pack them in cases of 45 units, and we can provide as many units as you need for as long as you need them to get through your school testing project. So they start and stop with a mobile app, and then you have a dashboard that you can track all of your projects. And we'll take a closer look at that as we go. They will create a standalone test report if you're doing single tests for like a home inspector would do for real estate sales, but they'll also do a little shorter version of that test for a report for schools and multifamily buildings, and then we will create a summary report with you where you can have all of the test locations and the results, and attach all of the individual test results that you would like to that summary report, and have it available for your school website, or if you're a professional, to provide to the school or your client. So I can get my tab to work. So again, it's versatile. It can be used in a lot of situations, but we're going to concentrate today on schools. So this is a continuous monitor. It's actually in the category of a blind continuous monitor. And all that means is that the data will come from the mobile app, from the technician who retrieves the device. It will be uploaded directly to our server, and we scan the data and perform analysis on it with an AI program that does it very quickly. If there's something that falls out of the prescribed parameters, then it'll kick it out for a technician to look at. But either way, whether we need to put a warning on it about something that went wrong, or there was a chance of, or it appears as if perhaps the conditions weren't maintained during the test, or not, it's going to get posted over to the dashboard within, if not seconds, within minutes, depending on whether it's looked at by a technician or whether we depend on the AI program to go through. And we've been testing and working on this for some time. The ANSI R standard says if you're using a continuous monitor instead of a passive device like charcoal, then you can make a decision to mitigate or not on a single deployment, because you're going to have at least 48 hours of test data in that report. Now, I know the Iowa, and we keep mentioning Iowa, that they have a specific requirement for people to get trained in their state reg if you're going to test your own schools. And I know other states do allow school staff to test their own schools. Some states don't. So you'll need to find that out. And perhaps if you need assistance with that, we can help you. I think Iowa just never imagined that there would be the opportunity to test with a continuous monitor. So they do talk about confirmatory measurements in their requirement. Either way, if you do need to do a confirmatory test, you can do it right after you do the initial test, because the results are going to be available to you so quickly. Because these don't have to be sent off to a laboratory and wait some time for the mail and the analysis to be provided. If you've done testing before, with charcoal and electrets, you have to also place blank devices, which are devices that go out on site, but are not actually exposed. And those are submitted into the lab where they can see that they're not somehow getting a pre-exposure, or what they're looking for from the analysis is that whatever it was less than the minimum detectable activity or concentration. And that way they can feel confident that there wasn't some background that caused a problem, since passive devices don't have any way to tell you that. There's also a requirement for spikes. 3% of your tests, if you're using charcoal or electrets, would have to be spiked to a known radon concentration in a radon chamber. So you have to have extra devices for that, and then pay the radon chamber to expose them to that known concentration, where all that could be part of your quality control section of your report. That particular process is to make sure that you have accuracy, because you're testing a known concentration. You do have to do duplicates with our device. Every 10 locations, you would place a duplicate side by side. We have a way to track all of that for you and calculate the relative % difference that's needed for your report, as well as for the state or the certification program. Another thing about our devices is they have an auto stop function, where if you set it for a 48-hour test, or a 72-hour test, or a 96-hour test, it will run that length of time and then stop and wait for you to come retrieve it in the event that there's some delay. With charcoal, as you know, if they're left out for too long, then they can absorb so much humidity from the air that when they get to the lab for analysis, they're not able to read them. So in essence, they're spoiled. So these, you don't have to worry about that. If you do set them for a 96-hour deployment, which if you have the time, that's always great. If you need to stop them earlier, you can do that with your mobile app. And then finally, we take care of the calibration. So if you have these for a short term or a long term, so they're calibrated as part of the rental process or the lease process. If you have them on a long-term lease, then when they're due for calibration, we'll actually send you a notice and let you know that we're recalling those for calibration, and we're sending you replacements. And once you get them, then you'll put the ones that are due in the same box or case and send them back to us, so you don't have to do without them. The sensor in these devices will get 30 counts per hour for every picocurie per liter. I won't get into much explanation of that, other than to say, if you got 60 radioactive counts, we're counting alphas, pulses caused by these alpha particles coming from the decay of the gas and the subsequent decay products. If we counted 60 in an hour, then you could say that's 2 picocuries. If you counted 90, that would be 3. Compared to a lot of professional devices that only get 3 counts per hour, or maybe 4 counts per hour. Our hourly readings are very accurate and very reliable, so you can really see what's going on from 1 hour to the next, and that's very helpful for a mitigator to be able to look at when they're trying to determine, for example, what's the connection to the air handler operation, and I'll show you a graph of that in just a minute. Again, you don't have to mail our device to the lab. You can use it over and over again, one test after the other. There's a mobile app and the dashboard eliminates paperwork. Everything is going to be electronic. Each device can be connected to the mobile app via Bluetooth, but they also have a barcode on each side that you can just scan that barcode and it'll connect immediately. The dashboard has a section for single tests if you're doing regular real estate transactions. But most important to you on the webinar today is it has a project section. So you can click on the project menu and create a project for your particular school, and then all of the test devices that are deployed in that school or multifamily building, whatever it is, will all be recorded under that project file, and then we can create a summary report for that project as part of the process. We do track the duplicates and report the relative percent difference, where the client, the school board, or whoever can see that we did our quality control measurements as well to make sure that the devices were reading close to each other if they're in the same location. And then if the state requires data reporting, whether it's quarterly or annually or monthly, however they require, then we can do that too. So right now we are, as I mentioned, an NRPP certified lab, and we are New York ELAP accredited. We are a New Jersey Radon business licensee. We have a Florida Radon business. We have an Iowa Radon lab license. We have an Illinois measurement professional. So if you're licensed as a technician or underneath us as your laboratory or business, then you can operate these devices. There are some other states like Colorado that have a program, but they accept our NRPP lab certification. A number of states. If you don't see your state here, then call me. If there is something we need to do, we can take care of that immediately. I know that there may be a state that we haven't, and I know West Virginia is one, for example, that we haven't submitted things for a West Virginia lab. But if somebody wants to test a school there or a large project, then we can take care of that straight away. So this particular graph is one of the reasons why being able to monitor these buildings with a continuous monitor that gives you hourly data instead of a passive device that just gives you a one number average, it can be seen here. This is where you can see every evening the radon concentration is going up, and every day the radon concentration is going down. So this could be an example in a school, and not all schools operate this way. But for example, let's say the air handler comes on in the morning, and including that air handler also includes ventilation. And so in a short period of time, the schoolrooms are ventilated. The radon concentration falls and it stays low during the day. And then in the evening, it comes up again after that air handler and the ventilation is shut off. Well, what happens, let's say on a Monday morning after it's been shut off for 2 days? Did the air handler kick off or kick on in time to dilute? Or perhaps even on the weekdays, perhaps right now before you tested, that air handler isn't providing dilution air early enough to dilute the radon concentration before the kids arrive. What happens if you have a longer vacation period? So these are things that you can look at and see whether the mitigation can be handled with working with the air handling system, or whether it's going to take a soil depressurization. If you look at it like this, if you're doing charcoal or electrets and you place a device in a room and it comes back elevated, then the standard says to perform a confirmatory test. It's a passive device. You don't know whether it failed or not. It can't give you that kind of information. So you want to confirm it. So you go back and do another test. And that's after you waited perhaps a week or more before you got the results from the first. And then if that confirms that, yes, indeed, that room has an elevated concentration, or you have a number of rooms that do, then now you're going to have to call a mitigator perhaps, or you look at, how you can work with the air handler. Well, the first thing that's going to need to be done is a continuous monitor then placed where you can look at the hourly data and see how it corresponds to the air handler operation. So now you've got 3 tests in that location when you could have done it in just one if you use our device. They're very lightweight. They're typically for school testing. They're installed on an interior wall with a command strip. It won't bother the paint. They're easy to put on and take off the wall. Over on the left, bottom left there, you see where we've got one on a tripod. If you're a home inspector and you're doing, a single test in a residence, then we've got a lot of home inspectors who use this device as well. They'll put it on a tripod with a little clip that we can provide access to. So the deployment is quite easy and fast. There's also a label on the front of the device that explains that it's a radon gas detector. There's a test in progress and gives, the do not discard or unplug or disturb. And then it will, you can scan that QR code and it'll give you all of the information about, a radon test is being performed. What are the conditions that are required for during the deployment of the device? Not to be concerned that the device is somehow dangerous or emitting anything that's harmful. It's just going to be there for 48 hours to 96 hours to evaluate what the radon concentration is in that environment. Again, I mentioned they start and stop with a mobile app. They're easy to deploy. Over on the right, you can see that these cases can be even rolled through the school building, and you can deploy them as you go, pick them up the same way. We've been told in schools in particular, they can deploy a device, including mounting it on the wall and everything, in less than a minute and a half. And pickup is even faster. You pick them up. When you do that, you stop the test and confirm everything, and then you upload it to our server and for the analysis, and then we'll post it over to the web dashboard once we're done. Just to kind of review the difference between using, say, a charcoal kit and our device. I think I've covered all this, but I want to make sure it's clear for everybody. Our device is going to give you those individual hourly readings that you're not going to get with charcoal, which just gives you a 1-number integrated average. At least according to the ANSI standard, you can make a decision to mitigate or not on a single test. You don't have to do blank devices or spike devices. The test results are available the same day you retrieve the device, and we will make it so easy for you to put together a summary report. Really, it's pretty automatic. You can just add in, say, your floor plans of where you tested and any other information into the PDF, and it'll have all the information that's required by the standard to be on the report. So I'm going to stop right here and quickly allow our lead engineer and R&D VP, and he's smartest guy I know, James, is on the call with me, and he's going to share his screen where we quickly go over the EcoQube Pro app. James, can you put that on the slideshow, or do you need to leave it there? Okay, that's fine. That works. When you use the EcoQube Pro, obviously the first thing you want to do is create a dashboard account, and you need to do that first. We'll provide you the website. You go in there and create your account. For if you're the school district or the project manager for the school district, or if you're a professional, you'll create your account and all the information there. Once you've got your account created, then you just sign in with your username and password, like you do everything else these days. And here you can see the project dashboard. And over on the left, you notice you've got single tests, project, and settings and support. So what we're going to really concentrate on for this presentation is the project dashboard. So you can see here in this example, we're looking at about 5 different projects on that page. If you want to create a new project, you click that tab over on the right and you go in and put the information in for that project. So you can put in the the name of the school, the type of building it is, what kind of foundation it has, the property address, all the particulars for that school. And then you create your project. So he'll open one up here and you can see there's the project. If you need to edit something, maybe you made a mistake or you want to be more specific, you can go in at any time and edit that. Then you're going to invite your testers. In this situation, you can invite testers for that project. And basically you go in and add a new tester. You're going to put in their name and their email address. If they have a certification number, then you're going to put in their certification number. If it's a staff person and it's not required they be certified, then that's fine. But you're going to go do that. It's going to send an email with an access code. When you open that email, you're gonna see that access code, and you're gonna put your thumb on it and copy it, and then you're gonna go into the EcoQube Pro dashboard. You can see he's opening it up there on the left side, and that's available. That mobile app rather is available. Download from the Apple Store or from the Google Store, and he's putting in that pasting in that access code. And now you see devices. So he's got a device that he's in proximity of with a Bluetooth that was ready, if you notice that. So here, really all you have to put in after you do the first one is the access code. So, or the location ID rather. You put in that location ID, and then the other things will default after you put them in the first time. So if the building has a basement, then you can leave it at basement. It will stay that way for all your other tests. Obviously, you're going to have closed building protocols when you do this test if you're following the standard, so that will default to yes. You can put in the year built, and it will stay there for all your subsequent tests until you change it. And then a mitigation system, if there's not one installed, again, then you can put that not installed. And it will default to that for future tests. And then test type. So let me explain this for just a second. It's going to default to standard test, which is just the typical room you're going to place them in. But remember, I said we do have to do duplicates every 10 locations. That means we need to have 2 devices side by side, 4 to 8 inches apart. So in that case, the first device you deploy in that room, you would select duplicate test original. And then for the second device you deploy in that room, you would select duplicate device or duplicate test duplicate. That way we know that those 2 were side by side in that location ID. So then you move on to the next screen. If you need to put comments in about anything, you can do that, or you can skip right past it. It's not required you put them in, but it's there in case you need it. And then you go to the next screen. And this is where you choose the test period. You can do 48, 72, or 96 hours. Again, if you're going to do all of your tests for 48 hours, then it will default to that. The standard requires a 4-hour discard or delay, where those first 4 hours are not included in the hourly data. So you typically do that 4-hour delay or discard time. In the US, you're going to measure in picocuries per liter. For my Canadian friends, we know everybody else measures in becquerels per cubic meter. And then finally, this Wi-Fi is there available for you, but you don't have to use it. You just, because it's typically not going to be available, you can skip right past it. And then you can see it's ready to test, and you start the test. That's how fast it is. Then when you go back to pick it up, you're going to do the same thing. You're going to scan the QR code or connect via Bluetooth, and you're gonna find that device, and you're going to see it's in progress, and you're going to stop it. It'll show you how many hours it's run. See, that one ran 48 hours. You stop the test, and then it says, okay, now you're going to upload that test to the dashboard. I guess he went fast on that part, but you're gonna rather upload that test to our server. We're gonna scan it, and then we're gonna post it over to the dashboard. Here you can see the data, and then because we've scanned it and reviewed it, then now you can go in and you can see the status over there, and the blue button all are uploaded once the project has been finished. You've got all your test reports. You see, for example, on line 1, in that particular location 1, the radon concentration was 1.6 picocuries per liter. All of your locations will be listed there under that project, and all that will be part of your summary report. And then finally, if you, when you're ready to do that summary report of all the devices, you click Generate Summary Report. You'll add in some additional information if need be, and then you can go next. And again, you can put in, what was the purpose of it? Was it, it's time to test the schools every 5 years, whatever the requirement is. And then you can actually add files. So this is where you would perhaps want to add the floor plan of the school you tested, where you had marked all the different locations that were tested as part of the survey. You can scan it right into that summary report, where everybody will be able to see it when they view the report. And then your duplicates. It's going to match up your duplicates where it can count or calculate the relative percent difference. So you quickly do that. And then all of that's going to show up on the report when you're done. So you can see that you put your logo. We've got the RSTEN RPP logo up there because it was handy to grab, but whatever your logo for your school district or for your professional company, it'll have all the information needed there about the recommendations. It'll show you all the individual test results that were deployed in that school. It'll give you the duplicate test results with the relative percent difference. And then it's gonna, if you look down at the bottom there, if you can scroll down just a little further, you see it says reviewing by analyst. So at that point, it's gonna send an email over to Ecosense, letting us know that we need to review this before it gets signed. Okay, so we're going to review this, and once we review it, we will sign it and then post it, the summary report, over to your dashboard, and it'll be ready to put up on your school website if that's part of your process, or ready to send to your client if you're a professional. Everything will be there, including our lab evaluation and signature. So that's pretty much how it works. You can see it's simple. I think we've done our programmers and developers have done a lot of additional work as we've gotten feedback from people out in the field. There will also be an individual test report for every location that'll show all the hourly readings, as well as a page with them listed. You can click on the graph at any location and see what the concentration was at that time. You don't have to put the individual test reports for 100 locations into that summary, but they're available for your client. You can also, like a lot of our clients are doing, they're just attaching any rooms that are high, where it's easy to pass that on to, say, the maintenance people and the mitigator, where they can review the hourly data as they decide how to move forward. So I know I covered a lot of ground in a relatively quick period, but not to worry. If you missed something, then all you have to do is give us a call, and we'll be glad to show you. James is kind of showing you how single tests work. The difference between the test reports, the individual test reports for single tests, if you're doing, real estate transaction for a residence, the report will have all of the required information, because we know that report has to be a standalone. It has to have all the recommendations and how to interpret the results and all the things that are required for the NCR standard, as well as the state information, which will all be queued based on the address. Thank you, James. I appreciate you showing that. So I'm gonna take a minute here, and if you can put my screen back up.
Dallas, we have a few questions. Would you like me to read them to you in the order that they came in, and then you can ask the answer?
Bless your heart. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Okay. So the first one came from Clayton Wise at 116. He said 4.0 EPA level for residential. As I understand, the EPA for commercial is 100. Does that apply to schools?
No. Actually, it's 4.0 for schools. The confusion sometimes about quote unquote commercial is there is a very, very, very old, outdated OSHA standard that really is mostly ignored because it's just way too high. It was set back in the 60s or 70s, I think, and is just not applicable. Now, the action level for the US would be 4.0. In Canada, it would be 200 becquerels per cubic meter.
Okay. So Clayton, if you have additional questions with that, pop it on in the Q&A chat or the other chat, or feel free to reach out to either one of us, Dallas, maybe if it's more testing related. The next question came in at 129 from Paul. Paul, forgive me if I say your last name wrong, Tashida. And he said, because radon levels in buildings can vary by a factor of 4, what time of year should the radon test be conducted, Dallas?
Well, you're probably as good to answer that question as I, but I know you are. Well, they need to be conducted according to the standard when school is in session. So we don't want to do them in the summer while no one's there, or on the weekend when no one's there. Why? Because the air handler isn't operating during that time, so we're not going to see the impact of that. Whether it's making it lower or higher when it's on or off. We want to see what's happening during school days. Now, I think it could be helpful if you run a couple of days during school days, and then over on a weekend, if you can get 96 hours, if you got the time to do that and get some weekend data too, then now you can start to look at what's happening. But yeah, you need to test during the school year.
Okay.
Kids are there.
So Paul,
not during a holiday.
Right. And plan for a retest to fall when it's occupied as well. That's kind of one thing that people forget, is that you have to plan that if an area is high and it was not able to be mitigated by HVAC or regular mitigation means during that school year, you're going to have a problem because you have to retest while occupied. So just please remember that. Dallas at 136, Victoria Storner Bat said, do you have to plug them in or can they run by battery?
No, you do plug them in. You put them on the wall and just plug them in. I'll tell you a story. We've done schools, a lot of schools. Fortunately, since we started, we started doing a lot of schools in Vermont. That was the first place we tested, and now we're testing schools in the Denver area, and I think we're doing a lot right now in Idaho and Boise. I think we've done some in Massachusetts. But the very first school we did, we had 2 devices out of about 80, I think, that were deployed that got unplugged for a short period of time. They'll pick right back up. So if it's just a glitch, it'll just pick right back up, and there may be a couple of minutes gone. But these were actually unplugged for about a half an hour, which fine. We were able to leave them out longer and get enough data. But when the tester went in and to find out, well, what happened, it was actually a teacher. It wasn't a student. It was a teacher who was in one classroom and decided she needed to charge her mobile phone for a half an hour. And so that just seemed like the logical outlet for her to use, I guess. And then she went across the hall. She changed classrooms to the one across the hall and did the same darn thing. And she admitted it. And so we put an extra label on the adapters and made it part of our process that, you know, when you talk to the school and the administration and you know, put out notices for the staff that, you know, they need to understand, you know, read that little red and yellow label there that says do not unplug or bother, you know, leave them where they are. Since that time, we have rarely had any issues with anything coming unplugged. And, you know, you get a couple of locations, you get a pass on if it's just a couple out of, you know, a lot, but we really haven't had much issue with that. Good question.
Great. Okay, so Victoria, if you have more questions, Dallas is your person there. James Conrad at 149 asks Dallas, does this particular unit provide temp, pressure, and humidity readings?
No, we were really looking at trying to make this as affordable as possible for doing these large surveys. And while it, you know, we looked and said, well, if we added these extra sensors, then how much more are we going to need to charge for it, and is that going to work? So it gives very good, accurate hourly readings, but we do not have temperature and humidity or pressure readings.
Okay, we have another question here at 152. Autumn Rogers says, if we could use Ecosense, do you have a standards of practice, or would we use our own SOP?
We have a QA plan that and SOP that we've submitted to, like I said, New York ELAP and Iowa and New Jersey and all the states that we have licensing in, as well as in our PP. You can operate under that if you need to have that for your, let's say you're a licensed professional and you don't need us to do the analysis. We're going to do it anyway, but you have all those licenses or certifications, then, you know, we can provide you with what you need for your SOP. But I think most of the users are just, you know, using ours as it is and working under our umbrella.
And she's in Illinois, Dallas, so no difference with that because they're NRTD. Okay.
Yeah, in Illinois, I personally am a professional. And so you can work as a technician under that. Yes.
Okay, very good. At 154, Derek Dobbins said, for quote purposes, what is the cost for a case of 45 to rent for school, typical shipping, and say 7 days turnaround?
Well, let me share my screen because I was about to get to that. So if I can get
We're getting a lot of good questions here. Keep them coming if you have more in the Q&A or the webinar chat.
Questions, because it's good. So let me share my screen again. So can you see that now?
Yes.
All right. So this is a way you could save some money. Let's say you are the school district and you have 12 schools, or you are a professional and you've got 12 schools in the district. This is just an example I made up, but how you could price this out. The way I'm going to look at this with you is say, okay, what's your biggest school? Because you've got to test all the locations in that school at the same time, right? So let's say Central High has 123 test locations and you need 12 dupes. So you're going to need 135 cubes. So that would give you enough to knock out that biggest school. So then you've got another high school and it's about the same size, a little less. So then you could knock out that school. Now you could move on to middle schools, and middle schools, in my experience, not always, but are typically a little smaller. So perhaps now you can do, if you're doing these ideally, let's say you could get, do 96-hour tests on each one. you could do test Central High week 1, Suburban High week 2, and then you could test Central Middle and Suburban Middle both at the same time with that 135 devices in week 3, and do the same with the next 2 schools, So what you're looking at there is in 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 weeks, if you only did 1 school per week. Okay, and you could certainly get more than that, and you wouldn't need them as long. But at a $20 per month rental per device, then you could see over there, what your cost would be. $5,400 for 2 months rental for 135 cubes. That would be 3 cases, for example. If you add all of that up over on the right, you can see, excuse me, on the left, you can see that's 880 locations, including your dupes. If you do the math, you can see you're just over $6 a location. So now you're getting into where you're less than what you're paying for charcoal, and you don't have to buy devices for blanks and spikes. You don't have to pay chamber fees for those spikes. And if you're following the NCR standard, you don't have to do the confirmatory testing. The state may have a different requirement, and that's fine, but you don't have to send them off. And then the summary report writing can be tedious if you're trying to do that on your own, and with your this way you're going to have it done real quickly. So I hope that'll give you kind of an idea. If you've got a project that you would like to do that's, say, smaller than this, then just give me a call and we'll work something together. It certainly helps keep the cost down. If you've got more than 1 building, you could do in your rental period, whether it's 2 weeks or a month or longer. For example, we've got a school district in Colorado that's rather large. I think Joni's on the call, but they have about, I think, 200 schools that they're responsible for, and they test about 40 every year. So they ended up with 150 devices they're renting, and they'll probably keep them for about 6 or 7 months to get through all their schools, and then they'll send it back, and I'm hoping we'll do the same thing next year.
Dallas, we have a bunch more questions here. Victoria Storner Bat asks, how much does the device weigh?
Oh, I don't know. James, can you tell me how much it weighs? It's I don't know. It's so light. It's it's surprisingly feather light. I'll ask James to look it up in our spec sheet, unless if you can chime in, James, just interrupt me. I'll get back to that one.
Okay, so that was Victoria. We'll get back to you on that, Victoria. Paul Tashida asked a secondary question. What is the % accuracy on the units? That was at 1:56 p.m. today. What's the % accuracy? With
30 counts per hour per picocurie per liter, it's going to be more accurate than any device, like I said, you could buy. Gee, I'm trying to think of if you've got professional devices out there. If you look at I think the top of the line Radon device probably gets about 20 something counts per hour per picocurie per liter. Yeah, I don't have the number right off the top of my head. But I will, since it's in the chat, I'll send it to you. It's the hourly readings are very good. If it's a minimum 48-hour test, then the accuracy and the error factor is very small. We actually provide a table that will show you what the plus or minus is for all the radon concentrations. I'll send that to you.
Okay. So next question, Dallas, at 1:57. Have you sampled dormitory units, and what happens when a device is moved or missing in action?
Good question. If it's moved, that's, we'll understand what happened, and that one would be sort of the same situation that would happen if you show up and your charcoal device isn't there, or it got thrown in the trash can, and that's where you find it, or it got dumped upside down, or whatever they may do to it. And you've got an allowance for some of those. we don't want to make a profit off, a lost device. So in our agreement, if you lost them within the first 30 days, then if you lost one, then the replacements, I think right about $90. But after that, they drop to like half that. And the third, by the time you have them 3rd months, they're like $30 or something. So we're trying to make sure that you're kind of paying for them as you go. And if you lose one, then okay, we got our rent out of it, and we don't want to penalize you for that happening.
Okay, so Victoria Storner-Bat asked at 1:59 a similar question. What happens if you go back and the device is gone? That was the same kind of question. What's the charge with that? So I think that was answered. At 2 o'clock, Randy McKee says, do these prices include the dashboard, and is there an upkeep license that's required?
There is no upkeep license, and the price includes the dashboard, the reporting software, the mobile app, all that's included. There's no additional charge. You're just going to pay the monthly fee. If you're going to get it, for short term, and we do have some situations where somebody says, well, I got a project, but I'm only going to need them for half a month. Okay, we'll put together a quote for that. And we can do that too. So we're trying to be as flexible as we can, if that helps.
Okay, I think that's good. And then so Jody, forgive me if I say your last name now, Tropinoke asked, what is the best class to take for school testing protocols? So Jody, this kind of depends. I can take this one because I'm with the education group here. But Dallas has been answering them all here, so that's good. But so we do have this great course. This course that we have, the 6-hour one that we're talking about today, is eligible both for radon professionals right now to learn how to do this, to have a refresher, for an easy way to walk through this. We also have another one called Addressing Radon in Daycare Facilities, Schools, and Large Buildings, and that is a 16-credit-hour course. And that course is called C16-108. And it is $225. Anybody on this call, when you call our office or if you inquire, please ask for a discount. We'll give you a discount on the courses, any one that you might choose to take, even if it's not the one we discussed today. So school testing protocols, Jody, that's going to depend on what your need is. Are you training staff? Or are you a radon professional wanting more credits than the 6 credit hours? And if you are, then the C16-108, Addressing Radon in Daycare Facilities, Schools, and Large Buildings, would be the course for you. Please reach out to me if you have any questions about that. The next question here is, they're happening fast here, Dallas, so I'm trying to get them in the order here. Mike Hayes asks, how many square feet will one device cover?
That's a protocol question. So device, it really should cover no more than 2,000 square feet. So if you're in a large open area and it's more than 2,000 square feet, then you would need another one. But that doesn't mean that you can carve out a 2,000 square foot area in a school and just put one there. In a school, you need to test every classroom, every office. Sometimes even closets have been turned into offices. You have to kind of check all that and make sure if it's a place where people are spending, time, then, you test there. Exceptions would be like bathrooms and hallways,
Okay, so the next question is from Kent Shadley at 2:05 p.m. Do these devices require a performance test?
No, because since we are the analytical provider and we're analyzing the data, you technically can't perform a performance test. We do that. So we're sending them in all the time. Your QA requirements are just checking devices as you put them out, and then your duplicates, and then operating your placement protocol and everything according to our operating procedure. But you do not have to do a device performance test with these because it comes under the same category as a charcoal device. If you look in the NRPP device section, they've got a table now for charcoal, a table for electrets, and they have a table for blind continuous monitors. And the blind continuous monitor section is where you'll find it's the EQ200B. Okay. All right, Jan, did you get through all of them? Or?
I think we've gotten them all here. Let me just, oh no, wait, there are two more. Okay. Derek Dobbins says that for Illinois, if we are going to go under you as a technician, how would you like us to go about that so we don't have to change our SOP?
Oh, that's probably lengthier than I want to take here, but just give me a call and we'll work it out. It won't be complicated.
Okay, Derek, so you're going to give Dallas a call and he'll walk you through that step by step. So that'll make it nice and easy and efficient for you. Yeah. Ron Thomas at 209 asks, does the device update itself or does it need Wi-Fi to load the results? What testing has been done to ensure its reliability?
Okay, great. So you don't need Wi-Fi at all. You can use it, but typically you're not going to have access to it when you're testing these buildings. We've done a couple of schools where they had, they wanted to use the Wi-Fi. The school was doing it themselves, and they did, where they could monitor it real time during the test. But no, you just skip right past that. And you don't need Wi-Fi to stop the test. Everything but communicating between the mobile app and the device is Bluetooth. Now, if you don't have mobile phone signal when you stop the test and you go to upload it to us, then it'll tell you, and then as soon as you get to a Wi-Fi signal, if you're in something very remote, then it'll go ahead and send it. So I know I had one guy doing I think it was an elderly care facility that was brand new, and he was testing all the rooms in that. And it was in a rural area, and they didn't have Wi-Fi set up yet. And when he got there, he realized that and was concerned at first. He gave me a call, and I said, well, you don't really have to worry. He had the app open. He had connected to it, and he didn't need Wi-Fi to connect to the devices via Bluetooth. So he got them all placed and picked up. And then as soon as he got up, half a mile down the road, he had a Wi-Fi signal or phone signal, and he was able to, to send the data.
Okay. And testing to ensure its results with the reliability.
Reliability. Well, they went through a pretty rigorous evaluation with NRPP, the device evaluation, where they put them in the chamber at different concentrations and humidities and then so they certainly put them through the paces there. And then we've had these out for over a year now, so we're getting them back in for calibration. And I know I was looking at calibration data with James earlier this week, and we've got great precision, meaning reproducibility between the devices coming back in. Like we had a case of 45 come in for calibration, and we looked at all the ones that were run during the calibration exposure, and before the calibration chamber or calibration factors were adjusted, they were all very tight. So we had a few we tweaked a little bit, but they've been performing really well. We haven't had I think the only devices we've had fail, and maybe it was a couple, it was not related to the sensor. It was related to a component that would, like the being able to connect or something, connection issue. But really, we haven't had any issues with the devices in that regard, and we've had them out for over a year.
Okay, so there was One more question from Randy McKay, if I'm saying that right, Randy, hopefully. So when you stop the device, it automatically uploads the information from the device to the phone, then to the Ecosense servers. Am I correct in saying this?
Yeah, at first it pulls the device into your phone when you stop, and then there's a button that says upload. And if the connection isn't there, it's not going to confirm it. If for some reason it's not going to upload, it won't confirm it. So it'll just sit there. It'll be in your phone, so you don't have to worry about it. But you can, you'll see, and we've had very rarely had any issue with anybody who couldn't go ahead and upload the test right there at the spot. But then they'll come into our server. That's what I'm saying, upload to the server where we can review the data.
Okay, so the only one we have hanging out there right now, unless we get another question here, is the weight of the device, which Dallas, I did put it, that was Victoria Storner-Bat asked that question. I did answer her that you would get back to her after the webinar with that info.
Well,
so
let me ask James. Let me see,
Okay.
James, are you there? Can you tell me the weight of it?
Sorry.
How much does the EcoQube weigh?
How
Do you have that
much?
handy?
Yeah, network is not very good now.
Oh, okay. So you not okay. All right. Let me send that to you. It's really, really light. I'll give you an example. If you use the poster command strips, which you can get, I don't know, 275 of them or something in a box for $28 or something. You only need one, and they're the smaller ones, and it's not going to go anywhere. There's not enough weight to pull it off the wall. It's very light. But I'll give you the exact weight. And what was the other question? Weight and the plus or minus the error factor, and that would depend on the concentration. Obviously, the higher the concentration, the less error there's going to be. But it's very good at low concentrations as well.
So Dallas, Ron Thomas said 110 grams. He may have it and have weighed it there.
Ah, awesome.
So there you go. Thank you, Ron.
Thank you.
I think that's all the questions that we have, but I am going to encourage people that if you have any questions afterward, one of you let me see who it was asked this question in the beginning. It was Joseph. Is it Vitali? Asked is our course acceptable in New Jersey for daycare testing? I'm going to say it is, but NJDEP requires approval of the courses, and I do not believe this is among them. I can reach out to Chuck Renaud to see if he would accept it. Usually he wants an 8-hour course, so I could reach out to him to see if this is acceptable, but I did give you a different option, and that again was the C16108, and that's addressing radon in daycare facilities, schools, and large buildings. That is a hot seller also, just a little more robust, more for the professional. So if that is something that you're interested in, Joseph, I would encourage you to take a peek at that too. Any more questions here? Let's see. If anything else popped up. Joseph said thank you. And I think that's it for now, Dallas. If anybody else has questions, don't hesitate to email me at jfisher@certi.us or Dallas. I'm going to share your
djones@ecosense.io, djones@ecosense.io, not com.io. I really, really appreciate you joining me, Jan. I looked at your website recently, and you've got so many courses. It's just kind of fun to, oh, look at that one. That's a good course. So you don't have to worry about, if you're getting continuing education going, well, I don't want to take the same course. They're not going to let you in most places anyway, take the same course, over and over again. You've got a great selection of courses. You're always, producing new ones, and they're entertaining as a technical course can be, certainly. So I've always enjoyed the ones I've taken through CERTI, and commend you.
Thank you, Dallas.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. And
And-
just please express that to anybody that you speak to or in an email inquiry. We're happy to extend a discount for everybody who was on this webinar tonight. So I'll get a confirmatory list from Dallas and we'll honor a 15% off discount for any course that you would choose to take today, even if it's not this one.
Awesome. Well, what we're going to do then is we will follow up with sending out the recording to make sure, because you may want to look at it again. And I know there were people who registered who weren't able to show up. So anybody who registered, we're going to send the recording of the webinar out, and perhaps while Jan will contact you, maybe we can put your 15% thing in that email as well. Where you'll have it available in 2 places if need be, where you don't lose it. You want to take advantage of that because you're always going to need continuing education for something. So I appreciate that also. So thank you very much. I know we ran a little longer. It's 2:20. So I appreciate you staying on. I see we still have most of the people that registered to begin with. So thank you. And keep an eye on us. We'll have some more of these coming up in the future.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.